I'm going to show you how to make some cupcakes. This is a standard 1, 2, 3, 4 cake recipe, and basically that means it's 1 cup of butter, 2 cups of sugar, 3 cups of flour, and 4 eggs. Obviously there's some other ingredients as well, but it kind of helps you to be able to remember that. We're gonna be using a cup of milk. I usually use whole milk in my baking. It's brown because I just add the vanilla to it. I think it helps to incorporate it easier. Plus it's one less bowl and thing that's on the table. We've got a little bit of salt going in and baking powder as well. So the first thing that we wanna do is get our room temperature butter into the mixer. We're using the paddle attachment here. You wanna make sure that all of your cold ingredients are as close to room temperature as possible. Super cold eggs and super cold milk can cause it all to separate. So we'll get started by creaming the butter and sugar, which usually takes about 3 minutes. You wanna really get them fully incorporated and then whip them so that they're light and fluffy as well. All right, that's looking good. We're gonna now add our eggs one at a time. I have them all in one bowl. If 2 plop in, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but you just try to kind of add one at a time. And once each one is fully incorporated, then you add the next. And then usually right before the last one, I'll give it a little scrape down. Okay, so you wanna make sure there aren't any chunks of butter maybe sitting in the bottom of your mixer. All mixers are different, and sometimes you get stuff caught in the bottom. So again, just a full scrape down. If you see anything, maybe even scrape it off your paddle attachment a little bit too. Next, we're gonna be alternating between our milk and our dry ingredients. We always start and end with the dry. So let's get those ready. Flour here, we are doing a tablespoon plus a teaspoon of baking powder. So basically 4 teaspoons if you're measuring differently. And then a half a teaspoon of salt. And I'm just gonna whisk that together so it's evenly incorporated. And we're gonna start adding this in. So basically I add about 1/3 of this mixture because it's gonna be dry, wet, dry, wet, dry. So it's 1/3 of your dry, half of your wet, and so on. The key to a nice, light, fluffy cake or cupcake is to not overmix. The second that you add flour to liquid, we're creating gluten strands, and the more that you mix it, the tighter that those bonds become, which is why we knead dough when we're making bread. We want those bonds to be tight. We want these bonds to be nice and relaxed so that there's room for air and fluffy, moist cake. So we're just gonna get these ingredients just incorporated. Now would be a good time to just scrape it down before we put in the last of our milk and the last addition of dry ingredients. Okay, the last is going in. Okay, that looks perfect. We are ready to scoop into our cupcake tin. the paddle attachment on the KitchenAid. There's all sorts of amazing things you can do with your KitchenAid mixer. I'll be doing a video here soon on some of the fun things like making pasta and homemade whipped cream and all that good stuff. All right, and then I'm using my OXO scoop and I am just going to fill it halfway. You want to get these right in the oven. You don't want this batter to sit. It has a lot of baking powder, and so it starts to react right away. So you want to get this in the oven. And they go in for right about 20 minutes, but I usually end up setting my timer for like 18 just to double check so we don't overcook them. They bake at 350. I added vanilla, but you could always add in some lemon zest, orange zest. You know, you can use almond extract, anything to flavor the cake how you would like to. And this same exact recipe can be used in cake pans as well. All right, these are cooled off and ready to pipe. I just did a video on how to make American buttercream. I will tag that in the comments. I'll be doing all sorts of piping techniques here as well. Enjoy.